Captain Raylan Thorne wasn't a hero. At least, that's what he told himself. He was just a simple cargo pilot, flying between mining colonies and forgotten planets. His ship, the Dust Skimmer, was old, patched with metal from 10 different worlds, and made strange sounds when it flew. But Raylan didn't mind. He liked staying out of trouble. One day, while flying near an uncharted star system, his ship was hit by a meteor storm. The engines failed. Alarms screamed. The Dust Skimmer shook violently as Raylan fought the controls. He crash-landed on a planet below a dry, rocky place with purple skies and strange floating mountains. Raylan climbed out of the wreck, coughing and covered in dust. His ship was badly damaged. No signal, no help, and no way off the planet. He sighed. "Just my luck," he muttered. He grabbed his toolkit and walked toward a nearby ridge, hoping to find something, anything that could help. But what he found wasn't what he expected. Smoke, fire, screams. Down in a wide valley, an alien city was under attack. Strange robotic machines, spider-like and tall, were blasting buildings. Civilians ran in panic. Alien guards tried to fight back but were losing fast. Raylan froze. He could leave. This wasn't his war, but something made him stay. Maybe it was the small alien child trapped under fallen metal. Maybe it was the injured soldier calling for help. Maybe it was something in his blood, something human. Raylan ran into the chaos. He pulled the child free and carried her to safety. Then he spotted a downed hover tank, its plasma cannon still active. He climbed in, hacked the controls using his old Earth tech, and turned the weapon toward the enemy. Boom. Boom. The invaders didn't expect a human. They didn't expect resistance from one man. Raylan became a one-man army, firing from the broken tank, creating diversions, giving the alien guards a chance to regroup. The battle lasted only 20 minutes, but in those minutes, Raylan saved hundreds. When the dust settled, the alien guards surrounded him. They didn't arrest him, they saluted. One of them spoke into a communicator. "The Baron must be told. The human has saved us all." Raylan didn't understand. "Baron? What Baron?" They didn't answer. Instead, a black transport ship landed nearby. Guards in silver armor stepped out. Raylan backed away, unsure if they were friend or foe. But then a tall alien, wrapped in flowing royal robes, stepped forward. His eyes glowed softly. His skin shimmered like polished stone. "Human," the figure said, voice deep and cold. "You have saved my people. You have earned a debt that cannot be ignored." Raylan blinked. I just did what anyone would do." The Baron smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "No, most would have run. You stayed. That makes you special." The guards lifted Raylan gently and led him into the black transport. He didn't fight. He was too tired, too confused. As the ship took off into the sky, Raylan looked down at the city. Fires still burned, but the people were alive. Above the clouds, a massive floating tower appeared, a structure of silver and light, shining like a second sun. Raylan didn't know it yet. But this was only the beginning. He had saved a world. Now the world would try to own him. Raylan had seen many strange things in his life. But nothing was stranger than the city in the sky. The transport ship soared through the clouds, revealing a giant floating palace. It looked like a mountain carved from silver, with towers that shimmered in the sun and bridges made of glowing energy. This was the Sky Citadel of Baron Krexel, ruler of the planet Grovax. Raylan sat quietly, confused and nervous. He still wore his dusty pilot jacket, torn from the crash. Alien guards in bright silver armor stood on both sides of him, not speaking a word. He had no weapons, no translator, no clue why he was brought here. The doors opened, and he was led down a long hallway of crystal floors and walls that pulsed with light. Alien servants bowed as he passed. Musicians played soft, eerie tones that vibrated in his bones. It felt more like a dream than real life. At the end of the hall stood a giant throne, carved from dark blue stone and floating in midair. On it sat Baron Krexel, his presence calm but powerful. His golden eyes watched Raylan like a hawk. His long arms rested on the throne's arms, covered in thin, metallic veins that moved on their own. "My human guest," Krexel said, voice echoing across the room. "Welcome to my court." Raylan stood tall, trying not to show fear. "You brought me here. Why? You saved my people, my daughter, my city. That cannot be ignored," the Baron said calmly. "I didn't ask for anything," Raylan replied. "That's why you deserve everything," Krexel said, rising from his throne. "We Grovaxians believe in balance. You gave us your courage. We must repay it." The Baron raised his hand. Two massive armored guards stepped forward, carrying a long metal box. It glowed faintly and had strange alien symbols etched along its sides. The audience whispered as the box was carefully placed on the floor before Raylan. "What is this?" Raylan asked, stepping back. "A gift," Krexel said, smiling. "A living one." Raylan stared at the box. It was breathing softly, slowly, like something inside was alive. Then the box moved, just a small twitch, but enough to make his heart skip. "I don't understand," Raylan said slowly. The Baron's voice deepened. "She is my token of gratitude. She has been preserved, trained, and now awakened. For you." The crowd of nobles, soldiers, and servants bowed slightly as the box began to open on its own. A soft hiss filled the chamber, and a gentle blue light spilled out from inside. Inside was a girl. She looked young. Her skin shimmered with a faint silver hue. Her hair was long, soft, almost glowing in the light. Her eyes were still closed. Thin golden cuffs circled her wrists. She wore a simple robe, wrapped in gentle fabrics, like a gift never meant to be unwrapped. Then her eyes opened. Raylan gasped. She looked directly at him, not like a slave, not like a gift, but like someone waking from a nightmare. The Baron stepped forward and spoke in a proud tone. "She is now yours. She will obey you, protect you, and serve you. This is the Grovax way." The girl blinked slowly, confused. Raylan looked at her. Then at the Baron. He stepped back, shaking his head. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want someone owned." The Baron's smile didn't fade. "She is not owned. She is given. There is a difference." The girl stood slowly, weak on her feet, her eyes never leaving Raylan's face. She took one quiet step toward him, then whispered in a fragile voice, "Do you want me to kneel?" Raylan froze. Everyone in the court watched in silence. He looked at the girl, then reached out his hand not in command, but in kindness. "No," he said. "I want you to stand." A long silence followed. And then the girl smiled. Somewhere in the crowd, a noble frowned. Another turned and left quietly. The Baron said nothing, but his eyes narrowed. Raylan didn't know it yet. But this gift was not just a reward. It was a test. And many in the palace had just decided he had passed the wrong way. The alien palace had given him a royal guest suite, larger than his entire ship. Floating lights glowed softly from the ceiling. The floor was made of polished crystal, and an alien scent like sweet metal filled the air. But none of it felt comfortable, especially not with her sitting silently in the corner, the girl from the box. She hadn't spoken much since they left the throne room. She only said her name once, Jera, and now she sat with her legs pulled to her chest, staring at the wall. Her glowing eyes never blinked. Raylan stood by the window, arms crossed. The view showed the alien city below, floating towers, blinking ships, purple clouds. He should have felt amazed. But all he felt was confused. "What are you?" he finally asked, breaking the silence. Jera didn't answer. Raylan turned to her. "Why were you in a box? Why did the Baron call you a gift?" Jera spoke quietly, her voice soft and slow. "I was asleep for a long time. They woke me up only to give me away. To me, She nodded. Rayla and walked over and sat on the floor, keeping a little distance. Do you know who you really are? Jera looked at him now. I knew. Once. Before the cold sleep, Raylan frowned. You were frozen? Yes, deep sleep chamber. They said it was tradition. Raylan leaned back, thinking. Something felt wrong. A tradition of freezing living beings, of giving them away? He opened his wrist console and connected to the palace network. With a few tricks he'd learned over years of hacking old systems, he bypassed the security layer. He searched for her name, ZH Era. No results. He searched the Baron's household. Registry. Nothing. She didn't exist. Raylan stood quickly. You're not in their system, at all. Jera looked up. Her eyes showed something new. Fear. They erased you, Raylan said. Why? Before she could answer, the lights flickered. A deep hum filled the room. The box, the very same box she arrived in, sat near the wall, still open, and suddenly, it moved. Raylan stepped back. What the hell? The box's inner lining shifted. Hidden panels clicked into place. Symbols on its surface began glowing again, red this time. The soft humming grew louder. Jera's eyes widened. No, it's not just a container. It's a monitoring unit. Monitoring for what? Raylan asked. She stood slowly, arms trembling. For loyalty, behavior. If I disobey, it alerts the Baron. Raylan looked at the box. Then it's watching us? Jera nodded. Rayl and quickly pulled a panel from the side of the wall and found a small power conduit. Using a blade from his belt, he sparked it against the metal shell of the box. Sparks flew. The glowing lines faded. The box made one last groan and went dark. ZH Era gasped. You turned it off. Raylan looked at her. No one owns you, not as long as I'm breathing. She stared at him for a long moment. Why would you do that? You could have had power, control. I don't want control, Raylan said. I want answers. Jera lowered her head. Then you should know the truth. She walked toward the edge of the room and touched a panel on the wall. A hidden drawer slid open, revealing a glowing disc. This was hidden in the box. It's all they left me. She handed it to Raylan. He inserted it into his wrist console. A hologram appeared. It showed an alien woman, tall, fierce, with glowing eyes like Jera's. She held a symbol of royalty in her hands. This is Lady Vale, the voice said. Last queen of the Viren Rebellion. Her child was captured, frozen, and sealed by the Grovax High Council. They promised the child would never wake. Raylan stared at Jera. You're her daughter? Jera nodded slowly. I think. I was never meant to live again. Raylan's jaw clenched. The Baron hadn't given him a gift. He had handed him a threat to his throne quietly, secretly. So no one would ever know. And now they were being watched. Jera, Raylan whispered. We have to get out of here. Jera had never seen the stars before. She stood near the tall glass wall of the royal guest chamber, staring out at the alien sky. Above her, strange moons drifted silently. The city lights below shimmered like floating jewels. But none of it made her feel alive. Not really, because she still didn't know who she was. Raylan sat at the edge of the bed, his fingers flying across the holographic screen of his wrist console. He was searching again, digging into archives, old war logs, forbidden files, anything that could explain how a forgotten rebel child ended up in a glowing box, gifted like a pet. He glanced up. You okay? Jera nodded slowly. I just thought that don't feel real. You are, trust me, Raylan said. Too real for their comfort. She turned to him, her voice soft. Why me? Out of all the people the Baron could have chosen. Why wake me? Raylan leaned back. That question had haunted him since the throne room. Because you're dangerous to him. But giving you to me, it's smart. He thinks no one will believe a human. If something happens to you now, it won't. Lead back to him. Jera's eyes dimmed. So I'm still a prisoner, just in a different cage. Raylan stood and walked closer. Not anymore. I'm getting you out of here. She looked at him in confusion. Why would you risk everything? For me, Raylan's voice was quiet but firm. Because I've seen cages too. And I promised myself I'd never leave someone inside one, no matter what species they are. A soft beep interrupted them. The door, Raylan's console, flashed. A security alert, someone approaching. Fast.z. Aira tensed. Who is it? Raylan grabbed a small EMP puck from his utility belt and slid it into his palm. Don't know, but we're not waiting to find out. He pulled her toward the back of the suite. There was no obvious exit until he kicked open a hidden maintenance panel behind a glowing art wall. Come on, he said. The passage was narrow, dusty, and smelled like old coolant. Jera followed without question. As they moved deeper into the bowels of the floating palace, strange noises echoed around them, buzzing circuits, shifting gears, and the low hum of alien machines. Raylan led them into a dim storage bay filled with old tech, unused armor suits, and forgotten relics. He wiped his forehead and turned to her. We'll hide here, at least until I figure out a path to the launch deck. Jera picked up a broken visor from a dusty crate. This place feels familiar. Raylan raised an eyebrow. You've been here before? I don't know, it's like pieces of a dream. She closed her eyes. I remember voices, blue lights, a cold chair, and someone arguing, saying I was too valuable to erase, but too dangerous to keep. Raylan's face darkened. They froze you because they were afraid of who you might become. I don't even know who that is, Jera said quietly. I don't know what's inside me. Raylan took a deep breath. Maybe they do. And maybe that's why they want you controlled or gone. Suddenly, the lights in the bay flickered. A holographic projection lit up in midair. The Baron's face. Captain Raylan Thorne. Krexel's voice boomed. You have taken something that does not belong to you. Return to your suite immediately, or face the consequences. The hologram vanished. Zh. Ira whispered. He's watching everything. Raylan clenched his fists. Then it's time to move. Fast. He opened a locked container and pulled out 2 old stealth cloaks. Ancient military tech, but they still worked. He handed one to Jera. Put this on. We'll slip through the lower decks and reach the shipyard. Jera hesitated. Raylan, what if I'm not just a symbol? What if I'm something dangerous? Raylan looked at her, eyes steady. Then I'll be the first to stand beside you, or in front of you if I have to. For the first time, Jera smiled, not because she was free, but because someone finally believed she deserved to be. Deep in the underbelly of the floating palace, silence ruled. Raylan moved like a shadow, his figure barely visible beneath the flickering stealth cloak. Beside him, Jera followed closely, matching his steps, her own cloak pulsing faintly with blue light. Above them, the elegant throne halls and bright chambers of Baron Krexel carried on as if nothing was happening. But down here beneath, the surface truths were buried. I saw a data core access port near the southern energy lines. Raylan whispered, his voice barely above the hum of the ship's systems. If the Baron's hiding something, that's where we'll find it. Jera's eyes narrowed. What if he already erased the files? Raylan shook his head. Old data never truly vanishes. Not if you know where to dig. They reached a sealed hatch marked with an old Grovaxian royal crest. Raylan tapped his wrist console and connected a bypass device. Sparks jumped. A red light blinked, then turned green. The hatch slid open. Inside was a narrow chamber filled with tall memory. Towers, glowing pillars of alien crystal. Each tower stored thousands of records, some over 100 years old. The room felt ancient, forgotten. Raylan stepped forward, looking for any tags or labels. Look for anything marked gun class or deep freeze protocol. That's how they hide unauthorized cryo entries. Jera moved between the towers slowly, her fingers brushing against the smooth surfaces. Then she stopped. Her hand hovered over one glowing pillar marked in faded symbols. She could feel something. A warmth. A memory. This one, she whispered. Raylan activated the tower's interface. Alien glyphs swirled before shifting into readable text translated by his wrist console. The files inside were encrypted, locked under a silent protocol barrier. That meant only high-level royals could access them. Raylan smiled. Good thing I brought my slicer module. He plugged in a device no larger than his thumb. Within seconds, the screen blinked green. Access granted. What they saw made them both go still. Project Iceflower Subject, ZHER-VR. Direct descendant of Queen Vale, executed rebel monarch. Status, cryopreserved weaponized asset. Clearance, top secret. Purpose, emergency leverage. Diplomatic or tactical usage. Order by Lord Krexel, High Chancellor Grovax. Jera gasped. Weaponized, Raylan kept reading. You weren't just a political target. They turned you into a living threat. Someone they could wake only when it suited them. A living bargaining chip. She stepped back, her breath shaky. They never meant for me to live a real life. Just to use me. Raylan scrolled to the next page. His eyes narrowed. There's more. A hidden file. Not part of the original logs. He clicked. ITA hologram burst from the pillar, showing a younger version of Baron Krexel standing with a group of Grovax scientists. Behind them, in a chamber of blue mist, floated a small cryopod with Jera inside. Krexel spoke in a flat voice. Freeze the child, strip her name. Record her under asset code ZHERAVRX. Let the galaxy forget her. One day when I owe someone a favor, I'll offer her, not as a person, as payment. Jera watched in horror. Her legs gave out and she fell to her knees. Raylan reached for her, steadying her with both hands. This isn't who you are. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. But it's who they made me. No, he said firmly. They tried to make you into something they could control. But you're more than that. You were royalty. A daughter of a queen, and now you're a survivor. Jera stared at him. Then what do we do? Raylan stood, fire in his eyes. We take this data. We show it to the galaxy. Let them see what the Baron did. And we make sure no one ever puts you in a box again. Suddenly, the lights flickered red. Alert. Unauthorized access detected. Location. Data Core Vault 9. Raylan grabbed the slicer module, stuffed it into his pack, and pulled Jera to her feet. Time to run. From above, they could already hear the faint sound of boots marching. Metallic, getting closer. But this time, Raylan had more than just escape in mind. He had proof. He had truth. And he had someone to fight for. Asterisk. The alarm screamed through the walls of the floating palace like a wounded beast. Red lights flashed across the corridors. Guards barked orders in their native tongue. Automated drones zipped through the air, scanning every corner for intruders. But they weren't hunting just any intruder. They were hunting a human. And a girl who wasn't supposed to exist. Raylan dragged Jera through a maintenance shaft barely wide enough to crawl. The stolen data module pulsed with light inside his bag. Every second counted. Every turn they took could lead to escape or to death. Left, he shouted, glancing at the holographic map flickering from his wrist console. There's an old service lift near the hangar ring. If we reach that, we can drop straight to the lower docks. Jera's breathing was uneven, her limbs still weak from years of cryosleep, but she pushed forward. I'm not slowing you down, am I? Raylan looked over his shoulder and gave her a quick grin. You're doing better than most trained soldiers I've flown with. Jera smiled back, just for a second, before the ceiling above them shook. A thunderous explosion echoed overhead, then silence. Then footsteps. He's sending shock troops, Raylan muttered. This isn't about stopping us quietly anymore. He's ready to burn the whole floor. Jera's face hardened. He wants to bury the truth with me. Raylan paused, looked her in the eyes. Then we won't let him. They reached the lift. It was old, rusted, covered in alien writing and dripping with coolant. Raylan forced the panel open, rewired a few cables, and slammed his fist against the control rune. With a shudder, the lift began to descend. But it wasn't silent. Jera's eyes widened. Someone's coming. From the end of the hallway behind them, 2 Grovax assassins cloaked in black armor appeared. Their blades buzzed with dark energy. Their eyes glowed. Raylan threw a flash grenade without thinking. The lift door hadn't even closed yet. Boom! A blinding white light filled the passage. The assassins roared in pain. The lift dropped. For 30 terrifying seconds. They plunged downward. When it stopped, the door opened to a vast open chamber, the lower docks. Hundreds of small ships, most grounded, some in repair mode. Workers ran in all directions, panicked. From the alarms above, Raylan pulled Jera along. See that small scout vessel? Top left? Jera looked around. How do you know it'll fly? I don't, he said with a grin. But it's got weapons and an engine. And that's good enough. Suddenly, a siren blared. A voice echoed across the dock. Warning, asset ZHERAVRX is marked rogue. All units authorized to engage. Lethal force permitted. Jera froze. People stared. Some workers backed away. Others reached for weapons. Raylan stepped in front of her. No one's taking her. A Grovax dock officer raised a blaster. That thing is a political weapon. You're protecting a ticking bomb. Raylan's voice rose, calm but strong. She's not a bomb. She's a person. And she's proof the Baron lied to you all. He pulled the data module from his pack and tossed it across the floor. It slid to the feet of a nearby engineer, who bent down and plugged it into a station. The hologram flickered to life. Freeze the child. Strip her name. Record her under asset code ZH-ERA-VRX. ... Gasps filled the air. More people gathered. Whispers grew louder. Someone shouted, "He used a child to win favors." Another shouted, "That's treason." Raylan turned to Jera. Now's our chance. Run. As chaos broke out behind them, Raylan and Jera sprinted across the docks. A few loyalists fired at them, but others blocked their shots. The ship's ramp opened just as they reached it. Inside, Raylan slammed the hatch shut, jumped into the pilot's seat, and began launch prep. ZHERA took the co-pilot's chair and stared at the control panel. I remember this. Raylan looked at her. You've flown before? Not in this life, she whispered. But my hands know what to do. Engines roared. The dock gate began to close Baron Krexel's final lockdown order. But the ship blasted through before the doors could seal. Flames bursting behind it. Out in the sky, the stars welcomed them. Jera looked back at the floating palace growing smaller behind them. Her fists clenched. They locked me in a box, but I'm still alive. Raylan smiled, focusing on the stars ahead. And now we tell the galaxy why. The stars never felt so close. As the stolen scout ship soared through the upper atmosphere, its hull trembling under speed and strain, Raylan leaned into the controls. The palace behind them was shrinking into the clouds. Explosions echoed faintly. Through the comes panic spreading through the Baron's empire like a crack in glass. But this wasn't just an escape. This was the beginning of something bigger. In the co-pilot's seat, Jera sat silent. Her hands gripped the sides of her chair, her glowing eyes fixed on the black horizon ahead. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't afraid, Dot. She was remembering. I think I can feel her voice now, she said suddenly. Raylan glanced at her. Whose voice? My mother's. Jera placed a hand on her chest. The last queen. The rebels thought they erased her. But her message, her strength, it's in me. All this time I thought I was just a box they passed around. But maybe I'm the message that survived. Raylan gave a small smile. A message wrapped in fire and frozen for the future. That's poetic. A red light blinked on the dashboard. Raylan frowned. We've got a tail. Military signal. It's him. Jera leaned forward. The Baron? Raylan tapped the console. A communication. Window opened. Baron Krexel's face appeared, no longer calm and elegant. His golden eyes burned with fury. Return the asset now, human. You have one chance to walk away alive. Raylan chuckled. You don't sound grateful anymore. Krexel's voice dropped. You don't know what she is. You don't know the danger you're carrying. Jera stepped into view. Say it, Krexel. Tell the galaxy what I really am. The Baron's lips curled. A symbol, a spark. And sparks burn empires when left unchecked. Raylan closed the comm. Guess we're the fire now. The Baron's warship locked onto them. Alarms wailed. A missile launched fast, silent, deadly. Raylan spun the ship sideways. Hang on. The small vessel dove into a debris field floating. Wrecks from old wars, shattered ships drifting through space. Raylan weaved between them, letting the floating metal confuse the enemy's tracking systems. The missile missed. Jera reached toward the console. Her fingers hovered over ancient glyphs. I know this tech, she whispered. I can trigger a blind pulse, scramble everything for a few seconds. Raylan didn't question her. Do it. She pressed the keys. A deep vibration shook the ship. A burst of silent light exploded from its hull. The Baron's warship veered off, systems flickering. They were free again. Raylan exhaled. Nice flying, princess. Jera looked at him. I'm not a princess anymore. No, he said. You're something better. You're you. They entered deep space, away from the planet's pull. Stars stretched around them like an ocean of light. Raylan activated the beacon from his console. It was a simple transmission, but powerful enough to reach human relay stations across the sector. He uploaded all the data, the hidden files, the holograms, the evidence of Jera's cryo prison. He added one line. This is Captain Raylan Thorne. The truth has been locked in a box long enough. Time to open it. The signal was sent. Jera watched the stars, her voice calm. What happens now? Raylan leaned back. Now. The galaxy chooses what kind of story it wants to believe. One where power hides its crimes. Or one where a girl in a box becomes a flame they couldn't contain. She turned to him. And us? Where do we go? Raylan smiled. Anywhere, everywhere. You're not a gift anymore. You're free. Jera looked forward. Her eyes glowed with quiet power. For the first time in my life, she said, I feel real. The ship vanished into the stars, carrying a human, an alien girl, and a truth too powerful to be buried.